I'm Melissa, 32.
Sitting in my car, watching the city lights twinkle outside the window, my phone chimes with a message from my brother, Ethan. We need to talk privately. I have a new proposal. I set the phone down, not even bothering to reply. For the first time in my life, I feel a sense of calm and determination, knowing that I'll face whatever he has to say on my own terms. It all started at that so-called celebration dinner. I was about to raise my glass for another toast when I heard my name from the hallway. Ethan's voice carried through the half-open door of my dad's study. She finally has enough money to save our family winery. His words hit me like a punch in the gut. My dad, a strict and traditional man, followed with, "Let's not rush." Melissa has always been careful with money. My mom, ever the pushy one, chimed in. The winery needs the investment now, not later. The wine glass slipped from my fingers, shattering on the dining room floor. The red wine from our family winery splashed across my pants, a stark reminder of the family legacy they were so desperate to save. I realized that this dinner, meant to celebrate my promotion at my architecture firm, was just a ploy to soften me up for their request. I remembered when I was 16, I'd begged my dad to let me learn about winemaking with Ethan. But he'd said, "This is men's work. Your mom needs you in the kitchen." Meanwhile, Ethan's mediocre grades in school were celebrated, while my academic achievements were often overlooked. Anger welled up inside me as I pushed open the study door. I confronted them, my voice surprisingly steady. "I know you've been planning to get my $100,000 for Ethan's tasting room expansion." My mom tried to smooth things over, saying they were just proud of my promotion. But I saw through the lies. I told them that the money was for my cabin in the mountains, my dream investment. My dad scowled and accused me of being selfish, saying Ethan had dedicated his life to the winery and the family name. Ethan crossed his arms, insisting it was about the family legacy and that the expansion would double the revenue. But I'd spent 6 years carefully saving, working weekends, and taking on extra projects. I wasn't going to sacrifice my future for a brother who'd never done the same for me. I firmly said, "I'm not giving you a single cent." Ethan then threatened to cut me off from the family, but this time, I didn't flinch. I just walked out, leaving them stunned. The next day, I found an email on my laptop. It was from my dad to our family financial advisor, copied to my mom and Ethan. They'd been planning this for months, calculating the moment when my promotion would make me a viable source of funds. They saw me not as a daughter, but as a resource. I printed out the emails as evidence. The following morning, I watched as my family entered the law office for a meeting about the winery investment. I called in from my car, refusing to go inside. When I mentioned I'd seen the emails, there was a stunned silence on the line. Aunt Lily, a quiet and kind-hearted woman, revealed that they'd taken $50,000 from her last year for new equipment, which was never bought. Ethan tried to excuse it, but it was clear something was amiss. I also got texts from other family members pressuring me to contribute for the sake of family unity. My 89-year-old grandmother's nurse even sent a text reminding me of her belief in family. I was at a crossroads. At work, my boss, Lisa, noticed I was distracted. She told me that my promotion was well-deserved, giving me a small moment of validation. As I drove home, I wondered if protecting my future was worth losing my family. Then, Ethan's Facebook post appeared on my phone. It announced the winery expansion, assuming I was on board. My mom called, summoning me to a family reunion at the winery where Ethan would present his plans. It was clear they were escalating the pressure. Later, my bank called, raising concerns about my mortgage for the cabin. Uncle Sam, an old acquaintance of the bank officer, had put in a word, saying I was overextending myself while the family business needed support. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, my real estate agent, Sarah, called with good news. The cabin I'd been eyeing in the mountains had its price dropped by 15%. It was perfect, and the locals called the ridge Independent Ridge. That night, my mom showed up at my apartment with a bottle of our family's oldest wine, trying to bribe me into investing. But I stood my ground. "My future isn't for sale," I told her. The next day at work, My friend Tom helped me draft an email to my family, clearly stating my financial boundaries. That evening, I scheduled a viewing of the cabin for the same time as the family reunion and sent the email. On Saturday evening, I drove to the winery, ready to confront them. I presented 10 years of winery financial reports showing that the profit margin had been below industry standards for a decade. Ethan tried to dismiss my findings, saying I didn't understand the business. But Uncle Ben and Aunt Lily came to my defense, recalling how I'd always wanted to be involved in the winery, but was never given the chance. Grandmother Rose, who'd been silent, then asked if I'd consider a smaller investment for the sake of family peace. Just then, Lisa called with a work emergency, giving me an excuse to leave. Ethan then blurted out that the winery was in debt and facing foreclosure. I questioned how my $100,000 would make a difference if things were that bad. Aunt Lily suggested we reconvene the next week after everyone had time to review the numbers. As I left, Grandmother Rose gave me a small nod, which felt like a sign of respect. The following week, when I arrived at the winery, they offered me a 15% stake for my $100,000. But I showed them photos of my newly purchased cabin. They were shocked, and my dad accused me of being selfish. I then presented a detailed financial analysis of the winery expansion, showing that it would need 5 investors of $100,000 each to be profitable in 5 years, contrary to what Ethan had said. This revelation made several family members question Ethan's management. As I drove home that night, I received texts about potential investors backing out. And now, with Ethan's new message, I'm ready to face whatever comes next, knowing I've finally stood up for myself.